This was the Bronze Age world, the richest civilization humanity had ever seen. Trade connected every great kingdom across the ancient Mediterranean. Then the warnings began to arrive from across the ancient world. As drought spread, entire cities began running out of food. Then came the invaders, who would change history forever. The invasion spread faster than any kingdom could stop. One by one, the great cities of the Bronze Age began to fall. Entire populations then abandoned the world they once called home. Without trade, the entire system began collapsing from within. The machinery of civilization slowly stopped working. Cities that once held thousands were becoming silent ruins. Even the gods seemed to abandon the ancient world. Drought and famine spread across the entire Mediterranean world. Earthquakes struck cities already weakened by hunger and war. The sea that once brought wealth now carried destruction. For ordinary people, the collapse felt like the end of the world. Knowledge vanished alongside the kingdom that protected it. Within decades, the ancient world collapsed into darkness. A few kingdoms survived, but the old world was gone forever. And just like that, one of history's greatest civilizations disappeared. Years later, many of these cities would never recover. The palaces of kings became empty monuments to a vanished age. The warriors who defended these kingdoms disappeared with them. Survival forced entire populations on Maun to abandon everything they once knew. The collapse of trade shattered the entire Bronze Age economy. Some tried desperately to preserve what remained of the old world. The roads that once connected civilizations became roads of abandonment. Only a few kingdoms survived, the darkness consuming the ancient world. An entire generation grew up surrounded by collapse, unseen, and fear. Within a single lifetime, one of history's greatest civilization disappeared. The ancient world did not collapse in a single day. It unraveled slowly, city by city, kingdom by kingdom. Even kings could not stop the destruction spreading across the Mediterranean. For ordinary people, survival became more important than civilization itself. Some blame mysterious invaders, known only as the Sea Peoples. Others believed climate disasters pushed the ancient world beyond survival. The old gods remained silent as the world collapsed around them. Much of what happened was lost alongside the people who lived through it. History itself was buried beneath ash, sand, and silence. One of history's greatest civilizations vanished, leaving behind one of history's greatest mysteries. For centuries, the ruins of the Bronze Age remained forgotten. Entire cities disappeared beneath sand, ash, and time. Only thousands of years later would humanity uncover what was lost. Archaeologists uncovered evidence of a civilization destroyed by catastrophe. The ruins revealed clues to one of history's greatest mysteries. Ancient records described famine, war, invasion, and fear. Before the collapse, these kingdoms ruled the ancient world. It was a world connected by trade, diplomacy and shared technology. The objects left behind remind us these people were once real. More than 3,000 years later, we are still searching for answers. The ruins of the Bronze Age still remain scattered across the Mediterranean. Each excavation uncovers another piece of the forgotten world. Ancient records reveal the civilization already struggling stood before the collapse. Before disaster struck, and this was one of the most advanced worlds on Earth. And then, within only a few decades, everything changed. Around 1200 BC, the entire Mediterranean world, Konumwa, entered a period of chaos. To this day, historians still debate who the Sea Peoples truly were. Climate disasters may have weakened civilization long before the invasions began. Behind every ruined city were real people struggling to survive. More than 3,000 years later, the collapse of the Bronze Age still remains one of history's greatest mysteries. The collapse of the Bronze Age changed human history forever. Entire libraries of knowledge disappeared alongside the kingdoms that built them. Every artifact reveals another fragment of the forgotten world. Once trade routes collapsed, the entire system began to fail. Millions were forced to leave behind the only world they had ever known. A few civilizations endured, but they would never be the same again. Out of the collapse, a new age slowly began to emerge. Civilization survived, but the world had changed forever. Even today, historians continue debating what truly caused the collapse. The Bronze Age collapse remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in human history. The Bronze Age collapse was not a single disaster, but many disasters happening together. Trade failed, economies collapsed, entire kingdoms lost contact with one another. Famine spread across the Mediterranean, leaving entire populations desperate. At the same time, invasions pushed weakened civilizations from beyond recovery. Earthquakes and natural disasters may have made the destruction even worse. The ancient world was so interconnected that once one kingdom fell, others quickly followed. Leaders who once ruled powerful empire watched their worlds disappear. Over time, nature itself buried the remains of the old world. Even now, historians are still piecing together what truly happened. The Bronze Age ended in fire, famine, invasion, and mystery, and its story still fascinates the world today. The Bronze Age world once seemed unstoppable. Its harbors connected kingdoms and across thousands of miles. Ancient records describe fear spreading through the Mediterranean. Years of drought weakened civilizations long before the invasions arrived. Then came waves of violence that shattered already weakened kingdoms. Once the system began breaking apart, the collapse spread rapidly. For survivors, the world they once knew had vanished forever. Over time, nature buried the memory of the old civilizations. Thousands of years later, humanity began uncovering the lost past. The Bronze Age world may be gone, but its mystery still lives on. The collapse of the Bronze Age reshaped the future of civilization. The kings and empires of the old world disappeared into history. Much of their knowledge vanished with them. One generation watched civilization collapse, and around them, millions were forced to abandon their homes and search for survival. Trade routes that once connected the world became seas of destruction. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering the secrets of this lost age. Even after thousands of years, the mystery still remains unsolved. These artifacts are some of the last surviving voices of a vanished civilization. The Bronze Age collapsed and remains one of the greatest mysteries in all of human history. Civilizations that once ruled the world became ruins, lost to time. Only fragments of the old world survived beneath the earth. These ancient trade networks once connected nearly the entire Mediterranean. For centuries, prosperity flowed through these ancient ports. Then came the chaos that destroyed the old order forever. The collapse spread from kingdom to kingdom like a chain reaction. Even the greatest monuments of the ancient world could not survive forever. Nature slowly buried what remained of the Bronze Age world. Behind every ruin was a human story lost to history. The Bronze Age may be gone, but its mystery still echoes through history. Empires rose across the Mediterranean and vanished into silence. The ports that once connected civilizations became ruins, swallowed by time. Power meant nothing when the collapse finally arrived. What began as crisis soon became total collapse. War, famine, and disaster now struck all at once. One kingdom after another disappeared from history. For survivors, the old world existed only as memory. Time slowly erased the remains of the Bronze Age world. Today, we continue searching for the truth buried beneath the ruins. The Bronze Age collapse remains one of humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries. The Bronze Age world vanished, but its mystery never died. Every ruin still carries echoes of a forgotten civilization. Ancient records tell stories of fear, invasion, and collapse. Within only decades, an entire age came to an end. The survivors carried the memory of the old world into a new age. Out of the collapse, a completely new world slowly emerged. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering clues buried for thousands of years. Even after 3,000 years, many questions remain unanswered. These artifacts are the final voices of a civilization lost to time. One of the greatest civilizations in history disappeared, leaving behind one of history's greatest mysteries. The Bronze Age collapse was one of the darkest turning points in human history. The rulers of mighty kingdoms vanished almost overnight. All that remained were fragments of a shattered world. The final years of the Bronze Age were filled with fear, chaos, and destruction. Ordinary people suffered the most as civilization collapsed around them. Entire populations were forced to flee into an uncertain future. The monuments of the old world slowly faded into silence. Over centuries, the memory of these civilizations had nearly disappeared. Modern archaeology continues uncovering the lost story of the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age collapse remains one of the greatest mysteries humanity has ever faced. Thousands of years later, the ruins still whisper, the story of a lost world. Entire civilizations disappeared, but their mystery continues to fascinate humanity. What do you think truly caused the collapse of the Bronze Age? Write your theory in the comments, and let's uncover history together. If you want more forgotten mysteries from history, follow for the next story.